라는 플랜이 된 것이죠. 그래서 여러분들이 가보시면은 또 어떤 자긍심이 있냐면 건물을 완전히 바닥에서 꼭대기까지 확 꿰뚫는 작품이 하나 있어요.
뭔가요?
한 22m 정도의 브론즈로 빗대가 착 있고, 그래서 이거는 뭐냐면 그 제국주의 시대 때 했던 것들의 반성이죠. 항상 잊지 말자라는 맥락에서 그 조각을 설치했고요. 한국 사람이라는 게 좀 자랑스러웠어요. 공간은 없어졌지만 기억은 잊지 않았다라는 전시를 최근에 일들이에요. 최근에 다시 벌리면서 말씀하셨던 그 사람들의 마음을 다시 어루만지는 치유하는 프로젝트들을 다시 시작하고 있다는 점에서 좀 고무적이었어요.
그 험볼트 포럼이 지금 보여주는 것은 그 겉모습은 하나의 그러니까 통일된 하나의 겉모습이지만 이 안에는 혼종성을 인정해 주는 거죠.
네. 근데 그 혼종성이 단순히 동독과 서독의 문제가 아니라 세계 시민성으로도
그렇죠.
확대되고 있다는 것이 중요한 포인트인 것 같아요.
놀랍네요, 그거는.
그러니까 나중에 우리나라가 통일될 날이 그 이후의 일도 생각해 보자면 많은 또 차별과 또 이런 시선들이
그렇죠.
있을 수밖에 없을 거 아니에요. 사람을 사는데 왜 이런 것 같아요. 누군가가 이제 새로 뭐 입양을 갔거나 새로 결혼을 했어요. 더 잘 살게 됐어요. 그렇다고 해서 네가 살았던 공간, 네가 살았던 문화 이런 걸 통째로 비하하고 무시한다면, 부정한다면 그거 얼마나 큰 상처가 되고 그게 정말 제대로 된 통합일까 싶을 것 같아요.
근데 실질적인 통합은 일반적인 시민들 사이에서 더 먼저 벌어진 것 같아요. 독일이 베를린이 핫플레이스가 통일 이후에 됐잖아요.
그렇죠.
그 이유는 뭐냐면 예술가들의 힘이라고 생각되거든요. 동독 지역이 여러 가지 이유로 슬럼화가 되기도 하고 빈 곳이 많아졌는데 거기 예술가들이 점거하기 시작했어요. 냉전 감시 지역이라는 곳이 있어요. 우주선 같이 생겼는데 여기에 뭐였냐면 미국이 소련과 그다음에 동독 지역을 도청하던 기지예요. 근데 이게 통일이 됐으니까 그 기지가 의미가 없어졌잖아요. 비었잖아요. 그래서 그곳을 예술가들이 점거해요. 들어가서 그림을 막 그리기 시작해요. 굉장히 다양한 그림을 그렸는데 제가 있을 때도 한번 가봤는데 여전히 예술가들이 거기 작업을 하고 있었어요. 근데 그때 너 동독 사람이야? 너 서독 사람이야? 아무도 안 물어봐요. 너 사진가야? 너 페인터야? 너 스컬프처야? 뭐해? 같이 모여서 그려요. 해방구 같이 에너지가 폭발하는 거죠. 그래서 예를 들면 홍콩이 갖고 있었던 불안함이, 우울함이 없는 거죠.
해소가 됐기 때문에.
네, 그냥 내가 하고 싶은 거 그냥 해. 눈치 보지 말고 각자 들어와서 하고. 그런데 그런 공간들이 독일에서 여러 군데가 생겨요. 그러니까 해외에서도 글로 들어와요.
진짜 세계인의 무대가 됐네요, 이제.
근데 진짜 싸대 좋은 공간들이 있대. 예술인들이 모여서 작업을 막 하고 정책적으로 간섭받지 않고 그러니까 거기서 훌륭한 작업들이 나오게 되는 거죠. 그러니까 통합은 어떻게 공간을 만들 거야의 문제잖아요. 어떻게 공간을 만들 때 아까 우리가 얘기했던 그런 여백? 불안일 수도 있지만 엄청난 에너지의 공간일 수도 있어요.
그렇죠. 그렇죠.
너가 하고 싶은 거 해. 자유롭게. 거기서 벌써 통합이 이루어졌다고 저는 얘기할 수 있어요.
이 빈 공간, 이 진공 상태였던 곳을 어떻게 보면 예술로 아름답게 승화시킨 거잖아요.
정책도 되게 중요한데 시민들의 자발성이 더 중요할 수 있다.
통일의 핵심은 준비에 있는 것이 통일 목표는 그 다음의 문제라고 저는 생각이 돼요.
This has been Peace Insight. Thank you for watching.
From breaking news in South Korea to stories from around the world, we're here to bring you the news that matters.
truth, clarity, and impartiality. And that's what we uphold in a fast-changing world.
We go beyond the headlines, offering depth, context, and perspective.
This isn't just news, it's our commitment. News you trust. Arirang News. The National Assembly is not deliberately delaying a legislative process for a trade deal with the U.S. South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun told his American counterpart Marco Rubio. South Korea logged its largest ever annual current account surplus in 2025, thanks to strong exports on the back of robust chip demand. President Lee Jae-myung attended a groundbreaking ceremony for a railroad in South Korea's Gyeongsang-namdo province, where he once again stressed the importance of balanced regional growth for national sustainability. South Korea's top diplomat Cho Hyun has told U.S. officials that Seoul isn't purposely dragging its feet on crucial trade legislation, addressing fresh American worries about potential tariff increases. Kim Bo-kyung reports.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun has explained to his U.S. counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that Seoul is not deliberately delaying legislation related to a special bill on U.S. investment. Cho told the press at South Korea's embassy in Washington, D.C. on Thursday local time that he had made the remarks during a meeting with Rubio earlier this week. According to Cho, ahead of the talks, Rubio said that while South Korea-U.S. relations are not in a bad state, he wanted to share that there was unfavorable sentiment within the U.S. side regarding the implementation of trade-related commitments. Though trade and investment issues are not directly his responsibility, Rubio said he raised the issue because he oversees overall bilateral ties and suggested the two sides manage the situation through closer diplomatic communication to prevent that negative sentiment from spilling over into other areas. Cho responded by emphasizing the Korean government's commitment to implementing bilateral agreements.
Rubio cautioned against delays in implementing trade commitments spilling over into broader ties, and we reaffirmed Korea's firm commitment and denied any intentional legislative delay.
He further stressed to Rubio that the joint fact sheet rests on economic and security pillars, and that implementation timelines could vary by issue. While emphasizing that security cooperation should not be hindered by trade-related concerns, he asked Rubio to encourage relevant U.S. agencies to fully engage in 3 key areas of bilateral cooperation: nuclear energy, nuclear-powered submarines, and shipbuilding. Rubio agreed and said he would closely follow the issues. Meanwhile, Cho also met U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer, where Greer reportedly underlined the importance of Seoul implementing progress quickly, not only on U.S. investments, but also on issues related to non-tariff barriers. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And the White House is walking back expectations of an imminent tariff hike on South Korean goods, saying it has yet to set a timeline for Trump's threatened increase. Moon Hae-ryun tells us more.
The White House says it has not yet decided when higher tariffs threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump on South Korean goods would take effect, leaving Seoul facing continued uncertainty as high-level negotiations remain stalled. Speaking at a briefing on Thursday local time, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said she did not have a specific timeline for raising tariffs on South Korea from 15% back to 25%, despite the president's earlier warning. She added that the administration's trade team would provide further clarification, signaling that internal discussions are still underway. Trump publicly criticized delays in South Korea's legislative process tied to a bilateral trade agreement and warned he could reinstate higher duties on Korean goods. That move would roll back concessions Washington had offered in exchange for large-scale South Korean investment commitments in the U.S. In response, South Korea's top trade officials rushed to Washington for emergency talks, while Foreign Minister Cho Hyun continues meetings with U.S. policymakers in an effort to prevent the tariff hike. Despite those efforts, Seoul has yet to secure a clear reversal, and government officials say U.S. agencies are still discussing whether and how the tariff increase would be formally announced. Meanwhile, concerns are growing in Seoul that the tariff dispute is spilling into the security arena. National Security Advisor Wi Sung-rak warned that renewed tariff pressure is shaking the broader diplomatic framework South Korea has built with the United States, China, and Japan. In an interview with Gyeongyang Shinmun, Wi said follow-up security consultations with Washington, including talks on nuclear-powered submarines and nuclear fuel issues, have slowed since President Trump revived the tariff threat. He added that multiple trade and regulatory disputes, including digital trade rules and a data breach case involving U.S.-listed e-commerce firm Coupang, are further complicating relations. We cautioned that economic and security issues are now becoming intertwined, urging Seoul to respond carefully while maintaining coordination with its key ally. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
With the continued rise of prices for memory chips helping South Korea's exports, the current account stayed in the black in December last year. This also led to a record annual current account surplus. Kim Do-yeon reports.
According to the Bank of Korea on Friday, the country's total surplus for 2025 reached $123.05 billion. This figure is an all-time high, as it smashes the previous record set back in 2015 by roughly $17.95 billion. While the semiconductor supercycle was the undeniable protagonist, the central bank notes that the supporting cast was just as important.
Merchandise export grew for 2 consecutive months. IT products, led by semiconductors and communication devices, remained robust, while non-IT sectors like machinery, precision instruments, and pharmaceuticals also expanded.
Driven by this broad-based growth, the goods account posted a surplus of nearly $138.1 billion. Exports alone jumped to over $718 billion, a historic high. The momentum peaked at the very end of the year. In December alone, the surplus hit $18.7 billion, the highest monthly figure ever recorded. This represents a jump of nearly $6 billion from November, extending the country's winning streak to 32 consecutive months in the black. However, the report wasn't entirely positive, meaning the record comes despite obstacles. The services account remained in the red with a deficit of $34.5 billion. While receipts reached $150 billion, payments driven largely by overseas travel exceeded $184 billion. On top of that, financial outflows were massive. Residents' overseas stock investments surged to a record $114.3 billion.
The surge in overseas stock investment by residents acted as a factor that significantly offset the effect of the current account surplus on the foreign exchange market.
Looking ahead, the central bank expects the surplus trend to continue in 2026, driven by the ongoing AI boom, though it warns that external uncertainties such as U.S. trade policies remain a key variable. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The semiconductor industry is the only key sector projected to see significant job growth in the first half of 2026. That's according to data released on Friday by the Korea Employment Information Service and the Korea Institute for Advancement of Technology. The report said, fueled by booming global demand for AI memory chips, the sector is expected to add 4,000 jobs, a 2.8% rise. While automakers and shipbuilders will likely post minor gains of roughly 2,000 and 1,000 jobs, they are classified as largely maintaining their current levels. In contrast, the textile and metal processing sectors face the sharpest downturns, each shedding 3,000 positions as production slows. The Kospi's journey through 5,000 is proving to be a bumpy one. After a week marked by trading days swinging up and down by over 5%, experts are now weighing in on whether this is a healthy correction or a sign of deeper trouble. Park Jun-han explains.
South Korea's benchmark Kospi delivered one of its most dramatic roller coaster weeks in recent memory, with 3 sessions seeing moves of more than 5% either up or down, triggering a sidecar that halts program trading for 5 minutes. Upon opening on Friday, the local market saw another downturn as the index fell below 5,000 again, which triggered yet another sell-side sidecar at 9:06 a.m. amid continued global tech pressure and a weaker won. By the Kospi's close on Friday at 5,089.14 points, down 1.44% from Thursday, the index had recovered part of its intraday losses, though the week was marked by brutal volatility, plunging on Monday, rising on Tuesday and Wednesday, and retreating again on Thursday and Friday. The volatility was mainly driven by global investors' skepticism over AI investment sustainability, U.S. rate policy uncertainty, and risk aversion moves against speculative assets like Bitcoin and precious metals.
Domestically, the benefits from the semiconductor sector are still carrying through to some extent. However, Korea's stock market cannot fully decouple from the movements of the U.S. market. With U.S. stocks showing signs of weakness recently, combined with foreign investors' less supportive fund flows, these factors are contributing to heightened volatility in the local market.
Domestically, while semiconductor tailwinds persist and individual investors showed resilience, foreign outflows and currency volatility amplified the moves. Also, as one economics professor noted, the market's rapid prior run-up made a correction inevitable.
Kospi has been, rising so dramatically, for the last, I think, 6 months, the price went up almost 100%. So the greatest, surge in Kospi has been necessitated, because of such a great rise. So I think correction is necessary, for the good of the Kospi market.
Looking forward, volatility is likely to stay elevated. While experts remain constructive on the long-term outlook, caution is warranted in the near term as investors closely watch corporate earnings, Federal Reserve signals, and $1 movements. Over the longer run, a rebound in confidence in the AI cycle and resilient demand for Korean chips could help the index stabilize and move higher, but sharp near-term swings remain a clear risk. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung attended the groundbreaking ceremony of a long-awaited railway project that will dramatically cut travel time between Seoul and South Korea's southern regions. Now, the project is a part of his push for balanced regional growth, which he has called essential to the country's economic survival. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yujan reports.
A journey that now takes nearly 5 hours by car will soon be cut to under 3. That's how travel time between Seoul and Koje, a city on South Korea's southern coast, is expected to change. Ground was broken on the long-delayed Southern Inland Railway project on Friday. President Lee Jae-myung called it far more than just another rail line.
수도권의 모든 것이 집중된 일극 체제에서 벗어나 사람과 지역을 잇고 기회를 연결하며 지역의 성장 동력을 만들어내는 국토 대전환의 시작입니다.
First proposed in 1966, construction of the railway stalled for 6 decades due to concerns about economic feasibility. Scheduled to open in 2031, the 7.1 trillion won project, worth roughly $4.8 billion, will link Kimcheon in Gyeongsangbuk-do province with Koje in Gyeongsangnam-do. President Lee says the line will help unlock new growth opportunities.
남해안의 관광은 세계적 수준으로 도약하고 이는 곧 지역 상권의 부활과 수많은 일자리 창출로 이어질 것입니다. 철도가 지나는 곳마다 들어서는 산업단지들은 경북과 경남 곳곳을 청년이 돌아오는 활기찬 도시로 만들어낼 것입니다.
Regional development outside the capital area is one of President Lee's top policy priorities this year. He reiterated that commitment during a town hall meeting with residents of Gyeongsangnam-do province later in the day.
재정 분야에서도 지방에 똑같은 조건이 더 많은 재정을 투입한다. 산업 배치나 아니면 기반 시설 구축에도 지방에 더 많이 하자 이제.
Among the ideas suggested was expanding government support to help the province's key industries, defense, aerospace, and shipbuilding, adopt artificial intelligence in manufacturing to boost competitiveness. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korea's defense ministry is in early talks with the UN command to better manage the demilitarized zone while maintaining the armistice agreement on the peninsula. An official told reporters on Friday that discussions have been ongoing since 2011, and working-level talks have been underway under Defense Minister Ang Gyu-baek to make managing the DMZ more practical and efficient. The ministry proposed this issue for discussion at bilateral defense consultative bodies, including the Korea-U.S. Integrated Defense Dialogue and the Security Consultative Meeting. Officials added that talks are still in the early stages with no concrete progress to report yet. North Korea's human rights situation can be a contentious topic to raise while pursuing a pro-engagement policy. But an independent UN expert says it can be a chance for cooperation. Our Oh Soo-young sat down for a closer conversation.
Human rights can present an opportunity for engagement with North Korea, not a cause for conflict. That's according to Elizabeth Salmon, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea, during her trip to Seoul. Speaking to the press on Friday, the expert said North Koreans continue to face deterioration of their rights to food, movement, and political and civil freedoms.
The overall human rights situation of the last 10 years showed no improvement, and in many instances degraded, despite reports of a few improvements in some isolated issues.
Ahead of a periodic report next month, Simon reflected on South Korea's latest policy to achieve peaceful coexistence with the North. Published Tuesday, the policy spotlights humanitarian cooperation in a more dovish than confrontational approach to human rights. While backing the push for engagement, Simon stressed that human rights should still be front and center of any dialogue with Pyongyang. But it can be raised not as a problem, but an opportunity to improve the lives of North Korean citizens.
We cannot put left human rights aside because they are not only, because the DPRK is a state member of the United Nations, it has a legal obligations concerning human rights. And finally, because when we want to speak about peace, we are not only talking about avoiding war, but we are looking for a sustainable peace, which means that that peace can guarantee human rights for everybody.
Now there's renewed speculation about potential top-level engagement between the leaders of North Korea and the United States. And well, while there's potential for human rights issues to be addressed, is there also a chance of having the human rights agenda cast aside?
Firstly, I think that human rights must not be left aside. But secondly, I think that at least some key points must be stressed during any possible dialogue. Reunification of families, the situation of detainees, prisoners of war and abductees, the possibility of the United Nations to work again inside the DPRK and to provide an independent monitoring mechanism.
Simon noted with optimism that Pyongyang has accepted almost 50% of recommendations on universal basic rights, including on women.
As the first female Special Rapporteur on North Korean human rights, what stood out to you about the rights of women and children inside North Korea and the unique challenges that they face?
Well, you know, North Korean women are very courageous. They used to work in Jangmadang, these informal markets. They provide resources for their families. Secondly, the majority of escapees going to China, for instance, they are women, around 70% of escapees. So their role is tremendously important, not only as victims, but also like leaders and providing information and proposing creative ways to help their families, to help their children. As a Latin American woman, I am totally convinced that any improvement in human rights cannot be done without women and girls.
Simon also highlighted the rights of North Korean escapees as individuals, not merely victims, putting them at the centre of designing psychological care and social integration. She also called for sustained coordination among civil society, governments and international organisations to strengthen support and information finding. Such efforts should be diplomatised, not politicised, she said, stressing that human rights, peace, security and development are strongly interlinked. 오수영, Arirang News.
The world's biggest winter sports festival is drawing closer as the Milan Cortina Olympics approach. Now, South Korean athletes are gearing up to showcase their best performances after months or possibly years of preparation. Our culture correspondent Park Konu is here to tell us more. Welcome back, Konu.
Great to be here, Demi.
So, Konu, the Olympics are just around the corner. Tell us more.
That's absolutely right. While the official opening is just less than 8 hours away, the competition has already begun with its preliminary matches. And for Team Korea, the first action came in mixed doubles curling featuring Kim Sun-young and Chung Young-suk. Despite dropping their first 3 matches, the team is still in contention with several games remaining in the round-robin stage. And in curling, especially in mixed doubles, outcomes can shift quite quickly with countless variables at play, and I can say that for sure because I am a curler myself. And aside from that, there are plenty more events for fans to keep an eye on. So let's first take a look at the key competitions to watch for Team Korea. Team Korea's gold rush begins as soon as the 2026 Winter Games get underway, with the opening ceremony set for Friday at 8 p.m. local time. 71 athletes will compete across 12 sports disciplines over the next 2 weeks. Attention automatically turns to short track speed skating, traditionally one of Korea's strongest events.
From three-time Olympian Cho Hyun to the IOC's recently selected top 10 rising star Im Jong-won, Korea heads onto the ice with medal hopes in 9 events, spanning relays and individual races. With around 30 Winter Olympic gold medals in its history, expectations are once again running high. And for good reason, as the country's only 2 gold medals at the previous Beijing Games both came in short track. But Korea will need to stay alert with strong competitors like Canada, showing sharp improvements this season.
Anything can happen in short track speed skating because all it takes is a fall, disqualification. So while Seoul is the favorite among the women for these Olympics, the fact that Korea has a good number of qualified skaters that could challenge for the gold, I think bodes well.
Speed skating is another arena where Korea has made its mark with 20 Olympic golds to date. This time, skaters including Kim Min-sun and Lee Na-yeon are expected to lead the charge. Figure skating also carries historic weight as third-time Olympic participant Cha Hyun aims to finally deliver Korea's first-ever Olympic medal in men's figure skating. And beyond the ice, a new story might be unfolding in snow, where athletes like Cho Hyun could deliver surprises and keep the door open for an unexpected medal.
One particular athlete that I'm actually most excited to watch for these Winter Olympics, I turn to snowboarding, which is kind of weird because Korea's never been strong in snowboarding, but they have a brand new 17-year-old sensation named.
And that comes as Trey has emerged as a strong medal contender in the discipline, named by Forbes recently, following 3 international victories in the previous months. From the ice to the snow, Team Korea moves into Milan Cortina with ambition, setting its sights on at least 3 gold medals and a top 10 finish.
Lots to look forward to. Konu, then I have to ask, where is the first potential gold medal expected to come from?
Yes, so the first potential gold could come from Lee Sang-ho, the first ever Korean Olympic medalist in snow sports, who won the silver medal during the Pyeongchang Winter Games. And he will be back on his snowboard on this Sunday with a chance not only at another medal, but also at what would mark Korea's 400th Olympic medal, a milestone moment, of course. And on Tuesday, attention shifts to short track with the mixed relay event getting underway. 4 years ago, Korea was eliminated in the quarterfinals after a fall, so this time it's adding even more extra motivation. And then on Friday, rising snowboard star Cho Hyun will take on a stacked field that includes Chloe Kim, the Korean-American superstar chasing a 3rd Olympic title in the same event. And on the 14th, Cha Hyun skates in the men's free program, aiming for Korea's first ever Olympic medal in men's figure skating after finishing just 0.11 points off the top spot at the recent 4 Continents Championships. Meanwhile, Canadian data analytics firm Shoreview Sports Analytics projects Korea to win 3 gold medals, naming Kim Gil-lee in the women's 1,500 meters, the women's 3,000-meter relay, and Cho Hyun in snowboarding as the top gold medal contenders.
I see. And the opening ceremony is just hours away now. Konu, what are some highlights to look out for?
Right. So even before the actual ceremony, one of the highlights comes from the torch relay where Choi Sung-hoon of K-pop boy band ENHYPEN, a former National Reserve figure skater, took part, adding star power to the ceremony. So why don't you first take a listen to what he said?
정말 영광이었고 이 올림픽의 한 여정을 여러분들과 함께 할 수 있어서 정말 기뻤습니다. 그리고 제가 피겨스케이트를 하면서 꿈꿨던 올림픽을 이렇게 가수 엔하이픈 성원으로서 올 수 있게 되어서 정말 행복합니다. 우리 국가대표 선수분들이 그동안 정말 열심히 피와 땀을 흘리며 정말 노력했다는 것을 모두가 알고 있는데요. 정말 이번 올림픽 좋은 성과 있었으면 좋겠습니다.
And now during the actual ceremony, Team Korea will march 22nd in the parade of nations based on alphabetical order as the countries listed as Repubblica di Corea in Italiano with a C among 92 countries. And the flag bearers this time are figure skating star Cha Hyun and long track speed skater Park Ji-woo. And what's notable is that it's the first time a figure skater will serve as Korea's flag bearer.
Something to look forward to, and fingers crossed for Team Korea. Konu, thanks for the coverage.
All right, thank you.
A blast of cold air has swept back in around the country, and cold wave warnings have been issued in more areas. Temperatures plunged to minus 8.2 degrees Celsius this morning in Seoul, and this cold spell isn't going anywhere tomorrow either. Even during the day, it will stay freezing cold, especially in center areas. In addition, heavy snow is forecast in the Jeollado provinces and on Jeju Island tomorrow and the day after, so be sure to be prepared for possible heavy snowfall. Seoul will start off at minus 12 degrees tomorrow morning with Daejeon at minus 11 degrees. Highs will rise up to minus 4 degrees in Seoul, minus 2 degrees in Chuncheon and Daejeon. A dry weather advisory has also been added for Seoul, and dry conditions will spread further across eastern areas. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.
Within the frame. From politics, economy, and diplomacy to culture. Explores various issues every day. Delivering the major headlines of the week, analyzed by anchor Kim Mo-kyun and a panel of experts. Tune in for premium news insights presented in an easy, concise manner. 10 minutes of cultural highlights. K-Culture Minutes. Meet the latest trends on K-Now. The creators behind Korean culture on K-People. Korean cinema on K-Story. And the passion of the performing arts on K-Stage. Discover the impact of dynamic Korean culture, one theme a day. Self-improvement. Explore the ever-popular Korean cuisine through one-day classes, K-Food Class. Around the world, Korean food is sparking a cooking fever beyond a simple dining experience. Joseph Lidgerwood, chef-owner of a Michelin 2-star restaurant, steps up for a global audience. This is for anyone who loves K-food. News that brings Korean stories to life. K-Culture Dive. Delivering K-everything, from lifestyle to entertainment and trends. Discover Korea's seasonal landscapes, major issues, exhibition and cultural venues, and diverse cultural news. You'll be drawn deep into the heart of K-culture.
During your study,
what's going to happen?
The Korean wave is drawing more fans
from all over the world.
Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% consensus rate in April.
Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences.
Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with this locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang. Knock knock. The magical door to the world of K-animation is swinging wide open. Meet your instant new BFF, the adorable Catch. Tina Ping will have you hooked from the very first glance. Need a hand? Our Robocar Pony Rescue team is always zooming in to save the day. How about tagging along on Pinkfong and Pal's super exciting quest to reclaim their lost magic? With the mysterious life forms Cabion by your side, you can become a Cabion master and save humanity like a total hero. Protecting children's innocence while igniting their boundless imaginations. That's the magic of Korean animation. K-animation, the ultimate bestie for kids worldwide.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gen. K-pop just hit a new high note on the global stage. For the first time ever, a track labeled as K-pop has taken home a Grammy Golden from the original soundtrack of the animated film K-pop Demon Hunters, broke through what many have called the toughest gatekeeping wall in American music. The win comes at a time when global interest in Korean culture is surging once again. And with a full group comeback from BTS and a new album from Blackpink on the horizon, 2026 is already shaping up to be a defining year for the genre. But as applause pours in, so do questions about the limits of K-pop's identity, how far it can go, and what needs to change for it to truly take root in the mainstream. Today we ask, is this a turning point or just another headline? For answers to this, we connect to Chung Min-jae, music critic and Korean Music Awards Selection Committee member. A big welcome.
Hello, good evening.
And also joining us is Samantha James, Assistant Professor of Communication at Auburn University. Good to see you, Professor.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So let's begin with the headline moment, Mr. Jung. The Grammy Awards, long seen as the highest role in mainstream American music, awarded Golden from the OST for K-pop Demon Hunters. In your view, what does this win represent in the broader history of K-pop?
Considering the long history of K-pop pursuing overseas expansion, especially into the US, this is certainly an encouraging milestone. However, it is somewhat disappointing that the win came only in the Best Song Written for Visual Media category, which had effectively been the strongest chance for recognition. Moreover, amid ongoing debate over whether Golden can even be considered K-pop, some see the result as recognition limited to the more limited film music category. After winning the Golden Globe, the momentum behind Golden was extremely strong, and many major outlets such as The Guardian, Variety, Billboard, and the Los Angeles Times, and many more, named it a frontrunner for Song of the Year, yet it did not win. For that reason, I think it is still difficult to say that K-pop has completely broken through the Grammy barrier.
It's too early to say that, but that itself indeed seems to be a great achievement and as a first stepping stone. But building on that, this is the first time a song under the K-pop label has ever received a Grammy. Professor James, from the perspective of how the American music industry and the Grammys make their selections, what do you think was the key reason that Golden took home the award?
Yeah. First of all, I do want to say that Golden is a great song, and so it deserved a Grammy for some recognition at some point. I'm really glad it was awarded that award. You're correct that the American music industry and the Grammys especially focus on local statistics in their selections, and Golden was an undeniable hit on streaming platforms here in the US, repeatedly breaking records on Spotify and YouTube and breaking Billboard charts and staying at the top of those charts for weeks and weeks on end. But I argue that the key reason Golden took home the Grammy specifically is because of its virality. I think the song itself is really high quality, it's catchy, and it's family friendly. So it originated obviously as part of K-pop Demon Hunters as a children's film. And so kids were watching along with their parents and grandparents, other adults, asking for it to be played on repeat in households. I personally attended a bat mitzvah where a room full of American 13-year-old girls knew all of the words to the song Golden. And so I think as it caught on with the general public in the US, the Academy took note.
Right, definitely. Well, some even called it the second Let It Go, that it's really famous among the teens. Now, but even so, Golden didn't just stay within fandoms. It gained traction with the wider American public, despite being part of a soundtrack. So musically speaking, Mr. Jung, compared to earlier forms of K-pop, what allowed it to break beyond the typical fandom model?
The first thing to note is that this track is fundamentally an original soundtrack. There's no denying this. The success of the film K-pop Demon Hunters was the absolute driving factor. If this track had been released as a standalone digital single without the movie, would it have reached this level of success? I don't think so. Its popularity grew because it integrated so perfectly with the film story, which allowed it to reach a broader public audience more easily. And musically, there are also differences from typical K-pop. While most K-pop acts function as groups, Golden, performed by Huntrix, consisting of EJ, Audrey Nuna, and Rayami, is heavily centered on EJ's vocals. Many Western pop groups such as Destiny's Child, the Pussycat Dolls, and of course the legendary Supremes also worked with a clearly defined main vocal presence. Having a distinct primary vocal messenger gives the song a stronger sense of focus. In addition, unlike the often maximalist production style of K-pop, the sound here is minimal. It focuses on the vocals, the melody, and the storytelling, which makes it stand out.
Right, so all of that factors in harmony was able to bring this kind of results. But we also have a common critique on that. Some people say K-pop Demon Hunters was made with the U.S. market in mind, and that makes it feel different from the traditional Korean music, K-pop. Oh, what's your take on that, and what do you personally see the outer limits of what still counts as K-pop, Professor James?
I think that's a fair critique, and the movie is by far the most accessible way for an American audience to learn about K-pop culture, Korean popular culture more broadly, fandom culture especially. The film was produced by LA-based Sony Pictures Animation and distributed by California-based Netflix. It was written and recorded in English and involved cameos from well-known Asian American artists, specifically actors like Ken Jeong and Daniel Dae Kim. But what makes the music in K-pop Demon Hunters feel different from traditional K-pop is a couple of other things on top of what Mr. Jung already said. So first, the music is used to move the plot of the film more like a musical score. You said that it was acting almost like the songs from Frozen in its virality and its popularity, and that's exactly the case. It's almost like a Disney musical style songwriting. So the pacing is different, and that sound is different from some of the more polarizing elements that we've come to know and love in K-pop, things like genre shifts, experimental sound effects. And the song is also emblematic of this English first format, so it's not just the English version of a Korean song. All of this does make it more palatable to a US market, but I would argue that Golden is actually emblematic of a core element of what the K-pop industry is, in my mind, which is its globalness. And so the K-pop industry has been the work of global teams for years, especially when it comes to songwriting and production. And I think Golden is just another excellent example of that. In my opinion, the outer limits of what we can define as K-pop is based on industry practice and production process, not one specific genre.
Right, so it definitely showed another face of Korean pop. Now, on the other hand, we saw nominations like Rosé and Bruno Mars's 아파트 make it to the shortlist of major Grammy categories. But once again, we saw no wins. But considering the Grammys' U.S.-centric nature, Professor James, what changes or steps do you think would be needed for K-pop to actually secure a major award?
I'm so glad you all asked this question. I think creating songs with the goal of winning a Grammy is one thing, but making music to reach a global audience is another. We talked about the US-centric nature of the Grammys and how they are at their core based on these more local metrics. I think that the K-pop industry is known for its global reach, its social media prowess, and is already doing that fantastically from very K-pop industry relevant methods. And I don't see that changing. So instead, I would love to see continued great work from an unapologetically K-pop style production process. It's already happening, and I'm excited to see what comes next.
Right, it's a reminder that recognition doesn't always come easy, even with global success. To make sure that Golden, it's not just a one-time achievement, Mr. Jung, what do you think is the biggest priority you think K-pop creators and the industry should focus on moving forward?
As I mentioned ahead, the fact that the song was part of a film soundtrack certainly played a role in its success, but the music itself had to be great. It's common sense. Even if a movie is a hit, the theme song won't succeed if the music isn't good. Modern K-pop is forced to juggle so many external factors like the packaging, the visuals, the concept, the storytelling, how many versions of an album to release to boost sales, and which TikTok challenge will go viral. Something like these. Strong melodies, meaningful lyrics, great vocals, and well-crafted compositions ultimately have the power to resonate with the public.
Right, so sustainability and how much it can resonate with the listeners and the viewers will be very important moving forward. And of course, Golden's win was heavily supported by the popularity of the K-pop Demon Hunters, like what just Mr. Jung has said. So, Professor James, what elements of the show do you think helped it resonate with the mainstream American culture, and how do you think its Korean-specific elements managed to connect globally?
I'm often asked this question by other Americans, and my answer is the same as why I think Golden deserved to win a Grammy. It's an excellent film, exactly what Mr. Jung was saying. If we want to go deeper into it, the core message of hope, friendship, love, overcoming evil is pretty universal from a fan studies perspective, which is where I'm coming at it from. I think that the way fandom is portrayed in this movie challenges a lot of the stereotypes of crazy fangirls, and so that resonated with young women and their families especially. In general, for an American audience, the film is pretty easily accessible. It's written in English, it's shared on Netflix, like we said, and it has some key underdog, being yourself individualist themes that resonate with an American audience, as well as some introductory level Korean pop culture references that are no longer alien for a US audience, or alienating for a US audience, because we've seen K-pop and Korean culture and Hallyu more broadly grow in popularity over the last few years. And so references to things like ramyeon and K-pop light sticks and even mukbang is something that fans are already used to seeing, and more broadly, just the general American public is used to seeing. So I think it acts as this entry point that helps the movie balance novelty and accessibility at the same time.
Right. It's really fascinating how local stories and culture seems to be welcomed in many parts of the world. Now, looking ahead, BTS is scheduled to make their full group comeback this March, and their new album, Arirang, has already surpassed 4 million pre-orders in just 1 week. Mr. Jung, how strong would you say the market's expectations are for their return?
In the entire history of K-pop, no group has commanded as much global attention as BTS, and the group has been on hiatus for several years. The level of anticipation surrounding their return is at an all-time high, and this is already being demonstrated through the record-breaking pre-orders and world tour sales. It is clear that the comeback will generate extraordinary sales, but The decisive factor will ultimately be what kind of music BTS presents this time. Songs such as Dynamite and Butter received tremendous love and reached #1 in the Billboard chart, but their success was also strongly supported by the group's massive fandom. They weren't necessarily organic hits enjoyed by the general public in the way songs like 아파트 or Golden have been. For this comeback, I hope BTS will deliver not only chart-dominating songs, but also a true representative hit that defines this era of their career. In any case, it seems certain that they will set historic records across charts, sales, and touring.
Right, as many are anticipating, we will definitely look forward for their comeback. Now, lastly, with Golden's Grammy win and the full group comeback by BTS, as well as a new album from Blackpink being lined up, many are saying 2026 marks a real turning point for K-pop. So, in your view, Professor James, what direction do you think K-pop should be aiming for next?
My answer is twofold. Primarily, I'm a fandom scholar, so that's where my head is at again. I think a lot has changed, exactly what Mr. Jung was just saying, since both BTS and Blackpink's last comeback. In terms of the fandom experience, social media use, fan expectations, and how we value fan streaming processes and the way that they consume content in general. So I'm excited to see that change, and I know that it's already happening. We've seen it in these sold-out tour that BTS just announced a few weeks ago. And second, I would urge K-pop as an industry to look beyond the US in terms of global reach. There are expanding markets for the industry that already have large fan bases in places like South America, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, for example. And so we're seeing companies do that already with groups like Cat's Eye and the new hype group Santos Bravos. And I'm really excited to see where those next steps take the industry itself.
Definitely. What about Mr. Jung? Do you have anything to add on to this?
I hope K-pop does not remain a temporary phenomenon, although the comparison is not exact. One example from cinema is Hong Kong film in the 1990s, which became a major global phenomenon and produced legendary directors, actors, and masterpieces. However, as you know, that momentum did not continue, and it eventually remained largely as a memory of a particular era. K-pop is currently at its absolute peak, and it needs to use this momentum to establish itself as a permanent pillar of global pop music, one that people everywhere enjoy naturally, rather than producing repetitive music and images simply because they are immediately profitable. The industry should aim to create works that will last longer. If you look at Latin pop, it rose to prominence in the 80s and 90s and is now a standard category of music worldwide. I want K-pop to do the same, continuing to evolve and transform so that 20 or 30 years from now, it remains a vital part of the global music landscape.
Right, a very strong and important message you've made. It really feels like K-pop is standing at a global crossroads once again, and we're really excited to see where it leads next. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights tonight, Mr. Jung.
Thank you so much.
And of course, Professor James, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
To set the facts straight. Get Korea right.